So this is part two of the brief um, history of the Armenian genocide, and then I'll talk you through the rest of the lesson. Okay. So we left off on identifying Mehmet Talat, Ismail Enver, and Ahmed Jamal as the CUP triumvirate. Triumvirate is leadership amongst three people. So let's continue. Beginning on April 24th, 1915, which is now commemorated as the beginning of the Armenian genocide, and it's 9 days after taxes are due. Armenian civil leaders, intellectuals, doctors, businessmen, and artists were rounded up and killed. Let's look back again at who they targeted first. Civil leaders, intellectuals, doctors, businessmen, and artists were rounded up and killed. You'll notice that the first couple are also going to be targeted during the Holocaust by the Nazis. Once these leaders, when we get to that, once these leaders of the Armenian communities were killed, the genocide plan was put into motion throughout the empire. So that's a plan. That's evidence of the plan. Many Armenian men were quickly executed. I'll go after the men first, as the ones most able to fight back physically. Using new technology, such as the telegraph and the railroads, CEP leaders sent orders to province leaders to gather women and children, either load them onto trains headed for the Syrian desert, or lead them on forts marshes into the desert. Embarking with little food and few supplies, women and children had little hope of survival. So the suggestion that this isn't a genocide falls short because of this, because it was intentional. It was a plan. Let's see. So, answer 15. They were executed with forced marches to the desert. And given too little supplies. If you send someone to the desert without water, you know you're killing them. Suggestions otherwise are lies. On these journeys, Turkish gendarmes, gendarme is a French term for a police officer, regularly subjected Armenian women to sexual violence. Oh, terrible. Is that part of the question? No, not really. Let's keep going. But that's a sad footnote in history that's usually ignored. Special militias were created by the government to carry out the deportations and murders. And Turkish, so there's special militias. Special militias. 22. Special militias were created by the government to carry out the deportations and murders. And Turkish and Kurdish convicts who had been set free from jails brutalized and plundered the deportation caravans winding through the severe terrain. In other words, they sent criminals on the Armenians and gave them free rein. Some women and children were abducted and sold. The children were raised as Turks by Turkish families, probably to save them. Not all Turkish people were complicit in this violence, but many are complicit in the cover up today. Some Armenians were rescued by Bedouins and other Arabs who sympathized with the Armenian situation. Sympathetic Turkish families also risked their own lives to help their Armenian neighbors escape, but most did nothing. Within months, The Euphrates and Tigris River became clotted with the bodies of Armenian women and children, polluting the water supply for those who had not yet perished. Perished means died, which actually means killed. Dysentery and other diseases were rampant, and those who managed to survive the march found themselves in concentration camps. And you saw those little black marks on the map, little dots. That was the concentration camps. By 1918, most of the Armenians who had resided in this historic land were dead or in the diaspora. Diaspora is a term that describes the dispersal of people that is involuntary. Under orders of Turkey's new leader, Mustafa Kemal, who is nicknamed Ataturk, which means the Turkish leader, very similar to Il Duce and Führer, Hitler. The remaining Armenians in western Cilicia, region of the Ottoman Empire originally inhabited by Armenians, were expelled, as were the Greek and Assyrian populations. By 1923, a 3,000-year-old civilization virtually ceased to exist. 1.5 million Armenians, more than half of the Armenian population on its historic homeland, were dead, and the Armenian community and personal properties were lost, appropriated by the government, stolen by others, or deliberately destroyed. Only a small number of Armenians remained in the former Ottoman capital of Constantinople. This is why I showed you the photo of all the skulls of the Armenians, because it's evidence of the genocide. Okay, I think we did pretty good on 15. Let's look for Article 305. The denial. The term genocide was not created until 1944. It was devised by a legal scholar, Raphael Lemkin, who had been strongly influenced by a study of the Armenian case and the persecution of Jews under Nazi rule. In 1946, the United Nations adopted the language, and 2 years later, the Convention on the Prevention and Punishment of the Crimes of Genocide was passed. Basically, it's an intent to kill a group of people, whether it's because of their race, religion, gender, whatnot. When you intentionally kill a group, that is genocide. Despite the affirmation of the Armenian genocide by the overwhelming majority of historians, academic institutions on Holocaust and genocide studies, governments around the world, the Turkish government still actively denies the Armenian genocide. They say it didn't happen, which is offensive as a teacher and student of history. Among a series of actions enacted to counter Armenian genocide recognition and education, the government even passed a law in 2004 known as Article 305, which makes it a criminal offense punishable by up to 10 years in prison to discuss the Armenian genocide. If I had done what I'm doing now in Turkey, I could go to prison for 10 years. And I'm sure what I did right now was fine. Not only historically, but ethically. Crime punishable 10 years imprisonment to teach Armenian genocide. Dang. So, but that was the law. All laws are good. Most of the survivors of the Armenian genocide have now passed away. That's code for died. Their families still continue to demand recognition for their suffering inflicted upon their beloved ancestors more than 90 years ago. They want justice. What would justice mean? It would be one, the government of Turkey admitting to the genocide. Two, it would mean compensation for the properties taken, and some kind of compensation for the lives taken. You'd never compensate it fully, but some act is worthy. Make amends. At minimum, you can recognize the suffering. What they said, man. Recognition for the suffering. All right, that wraps up that that reading. And the next one, this article is linked here. So you want to click on it. Give it a sec. It's going to redirect to a PBS link on this. So basically, read this article and answer the next few questions. This one I will not read aloud because it's not that complicated. So you don't need me to, I don't think. But carefully read it and answer the 3 questions. Then define genocide and denial. Then write this quality paragraph. This whole assignment is worth 138 points. And I think you should be able to finish this assignment in 2 class periods. So after the second day, it'll be due end of business that second day. So going over the directions on the paragraph, write a quality paragraph. That means 5 sentences at least. That describe the Armenian genocide, contain evidence of the genocide, and describes the denial of the Armenian genocide, and analyze the problem with denial of genocide. The biggest problem with the denying genocides is it really encourages perpetrators of genocide that there's going to be no consequence. And it's an insult to the dead. The dead people killed for no other reason than that they're part of a group, deserve to not be swept under the rug, deserve not to be denied. One of the reasons why I got into teaching this is because in your textbook, it says 600,000 to 1.5 million are killed in the Armenian genocide. A difference of 900,000 humans killed. In this reading, done by the victims of the genocide, they say it was 1.5 million. The perpetrators, the Turks, say it's 600,000. So that's why you get the range in the book. But that's wrong. Perpetrators are not trustworthy. I don't trust the Nazis to report on the Holocaust. So I'm for sure not going to trust the Turks to report on the Armenian genocide that they say didn't even happen. They make it a crime to even teach it. So no. I believe the correct number is 1.5 million, and I think that's logical. Anyway, go ahead and write me a good paragraph for this and conclude the working. Hope this video helped you. See you next time.